Alright, we're jumping straight into this video. I didn't catch the beginning of it. So what I've got is I've got a small, dry, rough turned white oak bowl up on the lathe. I'm holding it on with my spike drive, and I am turning a tin in and getting everything trued up. Hey, what's up, friends? Ray with Docket Timber Works. So the reason why I'm turning this bowl is I was sent some product to try out, and I'm going to demo it on this bowl. So go ahead and follow me along as I finish turn and twice turn this bowl, and we get a proper finish on it. And try out this new to me product. It's not new at all. It's been around forever. It's just the first time I finally got a hold of some, and I'm pretty excited about it because I get to feel like a real YouTuber and a real wood turner, and somebody sent me something to demo. Alright, so as y'all can see, this bowl originally had a 4-inch tenon on it, and I don't like the way it looks. It just looks kind of short and squatty, and it doesn't have a very graceful curve to it. So I redid it as a 2-inch tenon or 50 mil, and I am going to, I checked the thickness, and I've got enough. It's like an inch and a half thick maybe. So I've got enough to, after that tenon, kind of round that bottom off a little bit better and give it a more graceful turn. So I'm using my 1/2-inch spindle gouge, and I form the tenon, and then I'm taking a pass with it, and I don't know, I'm just not feeling it. It's doing okay, but I wasn't feeling it. So you'll see me take this pass, and then I'll switch over to my bowl gouge, and that seems to work a little bit better. One of the problems being is, I have the tailstock support up, and I have to, the style that I'm using this, it's like I said, I've got my spike drive, so it's kind of turning between centers, and I have to have the tailstock support, and the spindle gouge has a sharp 35-degree nose angle on it, so it's hard to work around that bottom curve, and I just get it feels more natural to use a 50-degree nose angle bowl gouge. And it's kind of like, falling off a bike. You never really forget how to ride it, but it's been a while since I turned bowls in general, and twice turned bowls. I prefer turning greenwood, but like I said, I want to do a finish with abrasive paste, and so you need a dry bowl for it to be effective. So I got the rough shape with the bowl gouge, and now I'm finishing up the outside with my knockoff version of Tommy's refiner, or Richard Raffin's shear scraper. And I'm kind of playing a dangerous game right here because I don't have a spear point scraper like they use, and if I catch that unsupported edge of that scraper on that tenon, that's a catch, and not a light catch either. It's probably going to chuck that bowl and screw off that tenon. So kind of a dangerous game I was playing right there, but I was trying to get that finish, and I'm not too worried about the juncture where the tenon meets because I have to take that tenon off anyways. So when I go to reverse the bowl, that's all going to be touched up again. And right now I'm kind of rolling a hook. What I was using was the grinder burr, and it wasn't the best. It was kind of old, so I rolled a burr with a burnishing rod. It's just a carbide rod. I'll show it later. It's kind of like Tommy's tool, but I haven't mounted it in a tool yet. I just kind of have it laying in my toolbox. That, or I'll grab a screwdriver or a drill bit or whatever's handy. But I need to stop being lazy and put my actual burnishing rod in a handle and act somewhat professional. But you can see there with that rolled burr how the nice ribbons are coming off, and it's removing material clean and efficiently, and is leaving a really clean surface on this really dry, hard oak. And that's also presented at a shear scraping angle. The tool's rolled over onto that bottom corner at, I don't know, it looks like maybe a 30-degree angle. Alright, now I'm back to the bowl gouge, and I'm kind of truing up the rim. It's, you know, ovaled and really out of whack, and I just need to get that vibration out and get everything trued up before I flip things around. Hindsight, I probably should have done that before I started scraping, and I might have gotten an even better surface or had an easier time at it. And for the life of me, I cannot remember why I started sanding right here. Maybe I just wanted to see what the surface was like, tool finish versus some sanding. I don't know. Man, I'm at a loss. But I went ahead and left the footage in. Why not? Okay, now you get to see what I was holding my bowl on with. It's my Lionel Bernard spike drive, and it's got one large locating spike in the center and then 3 drive spikes. And so it works like a 4-prong or whatever spur drive, but it's really good for uneven surfaces, and it's one of my favorite ways of reversing or starting out a twice turned bowl, or one that's already been rough turned and is dry and is ready to be twice turned and get the tenon formed and the outside shaped. All right, now you can see kind of the thickness of the bowl too, and like how I said, I was able to round and soften that corner off and switch tenon sizes because of how thick the actual material was left. And you know, that's what's cool, you know. You leave 10 to 15, 20% of the diameter, and that gives you material to work with after it starts drying, moves, possibly cracks, or like I did, I needed a design change. It just gives you material to work with and material to remove. Now, I'm going to fast forward a lot of spots in here because I'm kind of aggravated with myself with my face shield and big old melon getting in the way. Sorry about this, friends. I thought I had to get the camera angle set up right, and I still need to work on it. So you might see progress of the bowl jump around a little bit during this hollowing phase because I'm kind of frustrated at myself that my head was in the way so much. And, you know, nobody wants to see head, you know, bald spot, you know, so that's what it is. I'm sorry. It's just a hollowing. I'm using that same bowl gouge. It's a 5/8 bowl gouge, and I'm getting the rough dimensions in, and I get this down to, I'd say, about 3/8 thickness, maybe, yeah, 3/8. It's kind of a little bit on the thick side. You know, it might even be 1/2 inch, but it's got a good feel to it. It's good, it's solid, and you know, I leave the bottom in there because I'm playing with the scrapers a lot. So I leave a big portion of the bottom in, and you know, it's steep walled. You can kind of tell that this bowl is really kind of on the steep side, and my bowl gouge is kind of not too sharp, but it's not a 55 or a 60, so I can't ride those walls. There's that skate back, you know. You start with the flute just a little bit too much open, and you got to readjust the rim. And so now I'm back to my, you know, shear scraper or wannabe refiner, but it's just a piece of Amazon tool steel that I shaped to Tomislav's specifications, you know, or how he does it. And I even have the little notch in there for rolling beads with. And, you know, you can't beat it. It was an $8, I think. Maybe it was a more expensive one. Maybe a $15 piece of tool steel. And then the handle I had it in, a turner gave me a bunch of handles that he had popped the tools out of and didn't need the handles anymore. So it was a easy fit. And then it doesn't have a sharp enough curve, so I had to switch to my bowl scraper to finish that transition out of the shoulder of the bowl. And then we'll sand 120, 180, 240, and 320. Okay, I just went to war and back with my camera and mic, but I'm super happy to announce that I actually feel like a real YouTuber and wood turner, or like a big time one, because I got my first free product that somebody sent me to demo and try out. So, I mean, it's y'all know what it is, man. It's Acks, okay? And it's an abrasive paste. Well, actually now he's got together a combo, a 3-part kit that's the first step, which is tung oil and beeswax, and that kind of puts the tung oil into the wood or in place of a sanding sealer. Then it's the abrasive paste, and then there's a double carnauba finishing paste or restoring paste. So I'm excited. I've already watched a couple of videos on it and some other stuff. So it came with, he said I was the first one to get one because they just rolled these out. But it came with a cool little tote, AcksWoodPaste.com, and an American flag. You gotta love that. An American made product from American company, small mom and pop stuff. I mean, I admit I've been using Yorkshire grit the whole time I've been turning, but I kind of bought a tin of it, and I didn't want to waste it before I branched out. He threw in a little carpenter's pencil. The polishing, restoring. Here's the first step, and here's the abrasive paste. Okay, so what you do with the first step is you put it on, and then you let it set 15. I've seen him leave them up to an hour, because what you're basically doing is you're getting tung oil in to the wood product before it gets sealed up with anything like what's in the abrasive paste or the finishing compound or anything else. So, you know, I won't put it on kind of liberally, because this is, you know, a real beautiful piece of that 180-year-old white oak I got. I'm sorry I got the fan going on, man. It's still a little warm for my taste. I'm kind of cold-blooded. You know, I'm not happy until it's 60, 50. I like hoodie weather. And so, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a preview of what the finished product's going to look like. You know, it's 100% food safe, 100% tung oil and beeswax, which are as natural as you can get. Okay, a lot of companies use mineral oil. I'm not a fan of mineral oil myself, and neither is Tom. You know, well, a lot of people say, oh, it's food safe, the FDA, it's food safe, it's food safe. Well, it's a petroleum product, it's refined oil. So, I mean, the FDA can say, you know why it's food safe for the FDA? Because it's a laxative. All right? I mean, honest to God truth, that's what it is. So, you know, you want to chock your bowls full of laxative, whatever, go ahead. You know, and your butcher blocks and your cutting boards and all that other stuff, keep using mineral oil and beeswax. Not me. I'd much rather use, I use basically 3 things if it's going to be a utility product. I use tung oil, which is what Ax's products use. I use pure linseed oil from Tried and True. not the finish, just the Danish oil, which their version is 100% pure linseed oil. It's basically flax oil, okay? And I also use Mahoney's or Doctor's Woodshop walnut oil. Those three are curing, slow curing oils. They eventually cure over time. Mineral oil does not cure, okay? This stuff will eventually penetrate in, cure, and leave a protective shell. So that's that. I gotta let this set in 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm going to buff it off, and then I will use the abrasive paste. So I'm going to hit the stop button before my batteries die, but well, I mean, take a look. You can already see it kind of setting up and absorbing in, and it's going to kind of dull out a little bit. And you know, that's the oil going in and the wax staying on top. And we counted the annual rings on this tree, and it had 180. You know, it's older than the city. No, my bad, 280? 279 annual rings. It was older than the city of Novi, where I got this tree from. Just an insane amount of annual rings in this tree. And a lot of it towards the center, towards the heartwood. The heartwood looks really cool, man, like almost burl-like or spaghetti oak-like. So I love this bowl, or this oak tree, and I try and save every little bit I can. You know, because I don't ever know when I'm, you know, I collect free wood. I don't pay for it. I don't buy for it. And man, it's wild looking. It's got some interesting features in it. So we'll let this oil do its thing, the first step, and then we'll come back and we'll buff this thing off, and we will also put on the abrasive paste, get a nicer finish on this. So we'll just take that first step off. Get the beeswax off there. Burnish it in, see what it looks like. I mean, that looks good as it is. Now, he was saying that his base, and a lot of others, people have said that it feels a lot more aggressive and grips the towel a lot more than, say, Yorkshire Grit or the competitors. So we'll see. You can hear it working. Now, during this segment right here where I'm actually talking while I'm turning and everything, and every time I say he or him, I'm referring to Tom Ackley of Acks Wood Paste. Okay, and for any of y'all that don't really know what an abrasive paste is it's a frangible abrasive. Some use pumice, some use diatomaceous earth, or various other abrasive powders, and it's frangible because it eventually breaks down and wears out, and it simulates sanding upwards over 1,000 grit. And it's usually carried in a wax and oil based paste, and we as turners kind of got that cheat mode where we can hold our piece and spin our piece and use stuff like that, whereas flat workers have to bring the sanding to the piece, where we can actually move the paste and add other elements to a rotating piece. So it lets us use stuff like this abrasive paste, or say like a friction polish, whereas you can't really use that on flat work because you can't generate the friction and the heat that's required to cure it. And, you know, we can burnish in waxes and oils and start the curing process ahead of time. It's really an advantage of
now
turning.
We're just at 1,000.
And now it's key to make sure that you, like how I said earlier, that the the abrasive is frangible. You want it all broken down and worked in, and you want it all off of your piece. You don't want any residual abrasive left when you move to the next phase
that towel's pretty
of polishing. You know, there I noticed, you know, my towel was pretty saturated, so I just went and grabbed another towel and started over again. Because like I said, I want to make sure I get all that paste off of there, all the abrasive out before I move to the next step.
Yep. Now, just as is, man, that is a beautiful bowl. I might just go one more.
And at that point, I wanted to go another round of the abrasive paste. Sometimes I do one, sometimes I do two. But like I said, I really like this oak, and I wanted a good, clean finish on it. So I, you know, got nothing but time. You know, might as well take the time and, you know, nail or dial in the finish. I mean, everything leading up to the finish is prep work for the finish. So don't skimp on your finish. That's what everybody's going to notice. That's what everybody's going to see.
Like to make sure I get all the grit off before I put the polish on. Well, typically, I haven't used his yet, but that's usually how I go.
You can notice some little divots already missing in between the coats. While I was waiting for the first step to dry, I tried out the first step and the polishing restoring paste on a wooden spatula and a steak knife to see how it would work as like a wood butter for restoring wood utensils. I'll get that footage out here soon.
And we want to get a decent amount of friction. You want to feel the heat for that carnauba to melt.
That carnauba wax is some good stuff. I think it has one of the highest melting points of the waxes, and that's why, you know, they use it in like the Beal buffing system, and a lot of automotive wax uses carnauba.
Gotta spend an extra time, a little bit of time down there in the middle, because, well, that's spinning a fraction of the speed of the outside rim. Oh yeah. Y'all see that, friends? Okay, we got the cold jaws connected back up for the first little bit. We will have the tailstock in place. Can we get her down to a little nub? Turn things down. Check that.
Okay, now if you notice, when you go to removing tenons in these coal jars, it's important to take small light cuts, and when you can, push your tool and make the cuts directed towards the headstock, towards your spindle, and that alleviates or reduces side forces or torque. And you know, because the coal jaws don't have the strongest grip. It's not as important when you've got the tailstock support up, but when you remove that tailstock and have to remove that nub, it's really important to take small bites and move towards the headstock whenever possible. You know, you've come all this way. It would be a shame to, you know, get a catch or get some funky torque and force and lever that bowl up out of them coal jaws and have it go smack or break across the shop floor. So, you know, I've learned to take my time right here. The other thing about these coal jaws is it's important to follow the manufacturer's recommendation of 600 RPM. Or they might vary. I'm familiar with the Technitool and the Nova brand. I haven't used the one-way or record power yet, but I know on every single jaw of the Nova coal jaws that it states. So, I mean, they really stress the lower RPMs with these coal jaws. You know, I know speed is your friend, but this is one of those cases where you want to follow the manufacturer's recommendation. I have lost a bowl out of the coal jaws, and I have been hit in the face with it. And that's not something I want to encounter or repeat. And then again with the scraper, you want to raise your tool rest a little bit and get your cut above center so that you're angling, you know, you're pulling your handle upwards, which tapers, you know, it levers across the tool rest and it lowers the actual cutting point so that you're coming in at your wood less than 90 degrees. And this helps alleviate catches, especially on this style of scraper that, you know, like I said, I patterned it off Tomislav's refiner, and it's got a 45-degree bevel. So it's an aggressive cutting, almost self-feeding scraper. And so light touch and having that elevated tool rest so you create a negative rake is critical when you do this stuff. In contrast, I have my bowl scraper sharpened to a 70-degree nose bevel or face bevel. A lot less self-feeding, because I find when you kind of transition around and you get close to the rim that you do not want anything aggressive right there. When you're going into the base right here, it's not as bad, but when you come in to the alternating side grain, face grain of the side of the bowl, yeah, you want definitely a less aggressive bevel. And I'm cleaning up the bottom. I want the bottom clean and even, and then I want a concave surface, just in case it does shift. Like I said, the bowl's dry, but you know, wood moves. You know, my shop is completely different atmosphere than in my house. You know, the house is air conditioned and is a lot drier environment. I live on Lake Erie, basically, you know, 2 blocks away from it, and my garage is pretty humid. So, you know, stuff moves. You know, it moves, and you want that concave foot or bottom of your bowl so that even if it does warp, it'll always sit on 3 points and be relatively sturdy on a table or other surface that it's sitting on. And that's what I'm checking right there, is making sure that it's concave. So here we go again, sand 320, rinse and repeat.
Okay, so we're just going to put the first step back on. And you know, I did that kind of plane. You know, I wanted that plane kind of on purpose because I like how I love that design. I almost don't even like to sign the bottom of those. They just have such a cool look to them. All right, that's Acks abrasive paste.
Hey friends, if y'all could hit that like button, man, that really helps push out the video and helps with the YouTube algorithm. You know, leave me a comment on your experiences with Acks or other abrasive pastes, and please subscribe. I appreciate it. Thanks, friends. You know, I really hate asking, but it does help YouTube's algorithm push the content out to those that want to see it, and I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate all y'all's support and love talking to y'all in the comment section. You know, and I'd also like to give a big shout out to Tom Ackley with Acks Wood Paste for sending me this product to demo, man. It's really nice stuff. It's a nice set, nice 3-piece set that really puts on a beautiful finish for this wood. I really appreciate it, Tom. Thanks for giving me a chance, even though I'm small and relatively inexperienced. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. But